Thank you, Chair. In making the nomination, I also want to propose a change to the name of the position. So I nominate Steve Wayne, Councillor Steve Wayne, to be elected as Chairman of the Council for the 2023-24 Civic Year in accordance with the provision of Section 3 of the Local Government Act 1972, and that the position henceforth be designated as Chair of the Council within Article 5 of the Council's Constitution, with the post's Deputy also being designated as Vice Chair of the Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Is there a second for that proposal? Councillor Lynn, please.
Yes, I would like to second that, please.
Okay. Does anybody else wish to speak or nominate? I don't see any other candidates being put forward, so can all those in favour please indicate? Any against? Any abstentions? One abstention. Councillor Lane, with regret, you have been elected as Chair of the Council. Give me 1 minute while I get ensconced. Found it at last. Thank you for your patience. Good evening to everyone present and for those viewing online. I'd like to thank you members for giving me the opportunity to act as Chair of the Derbyshire Dales District Council throughout the coming year, which is the 50th anniversary of the 50th annual meeting, as the Council was founded on the 4th of April 1974. May I firstly welcome all members, whether newly elected or those who have served through other administrations. I also wish to thank members of the previous administration who did not seek or who were unsuccessful in their re-election for their time and effort for the period between 2019 and 2023. I personally hope to ensure debate is focused, balanced, and most of all harmonious. I wish to encourage all members to contribute to meaningful debate, thereby building a collective sense of purpose, irrespective of political allegiance, which will drive this council forward for the benefit of our communities. Please note, I'm keen, very keen, to expedite business efficiently and effectively. So when I ask for questions, I do expect questions to be put and not go into a long statement. Moving on to the business this evening, we now need to elect an appointment of a vice chair. I'd like to ask for nominations for Councillor Slack.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Dawn Gretrix for Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder for that?
I'll second it, Chair.
Councillor Flitter. Are there any other nominations for the Vice Chair? Right, we'll move on to a vote. So all those in favour of Dawn Gretrix? All those against? Any abstentions? Right, and now that means that Dawn Gretrix is elected as the Vice Chair, and if she would like to come and join me up here, then that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Item 3 on the agenda is to elect the Civic Chair. Yeah, the Civic Chairman. So, do I receive any nominations for the role of Civic Chairman for the forthcoming year, please?
Yes, I'd like to nominate David Burton for that role. Before I do, if I could just have the liberty of welcoming David back onto the council, and in recognition of his previous starring role as Civic Chairman between 1995 and 1996, I'd like to propose that he's elected Civic Chairman of Derbyshire Dales for 23-24, and that the position also henceforth be designated as Civic Chair of Derbyshire Dales within Article 5 of the Council's Constitution, with the post's deputy also being designated Civic Vice Chair of Derbyshire Dales.
Thank you. Do I receive a seconder? Councillor Franks?
Yes, I would like to second David Burton.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for the Deputy Civic Chair, please? None. So now can we vote for all those in favour of Councillor Burton? And all those against? Any abstentions? Therefore, Councillor Burton is duly elected the Civic Chairman for the Civic Chair for the following year. Thank you. I'll get used to it eventually. Councillor Burton, can you also sign this notification as well? Thank you. Thank you very much, Graham. Thank you. Councillor Burton, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I think Councillor conducted himself during this civic year. There's been a lot of respect for the manner in which he represented our area, and Graham, we do express our profound thanks and we all wish you well.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. We now move on to appoint a new Deputy Civic Chair. So, do we have any nominations for this, please? Councillor Whitehead?
Yes, so thank you. I'd like to propose Councillor Peter Slack to be the Civic Vice Chair for Derbyshire Dales District Council. Peter's worked tirelessly as a district councillor for over 20 years. A very committed community fundraiser, including running the Worksworth charity plant sale for a number of years, and is also a founder member of the Middleton Millennium Garden and member of many community groups across his ward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whitehead. Would anybody like to second that? Councillor Buttle?
I'd very much like to second that. Thank you. His humanity has shone throughout the time that I've known him, and I think he'll be a fantastic credit to us all, and I wish him well in the role. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to nominate anybody else for the role of appointment of a Deputy Civic Chair? No. We'll move to the vote. All those in favour for... Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? That's unanimous. Thank you very much, Councillor Slack. You've got the job. Thank you.
Nick for proposing me, and Neil for seconding it. And it's a great honour to be serving David. I've known David many years, and I'll do my best to, even when you're short of appointment, I will David. Thank you.
I could just whole council. There is tremendous respect for you, Peter, and again, we really do wish you well, and I look forward to working with you during this civic year. God bless you, Peter.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
So Councillor Burton will put the civic chain on Councillor Slack, and then he'll sign the appropriate documentation. Thank you. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 5 on the agenda, which is the election of leader and deputy leader for the 2023-24 municipal year. This is to elect the lead. We'll elect the leader first. So, do I have any nominations for the leader of the council for this municipal year?
Chair, I wish to propose tonight that we support the nomination of Councillor Steve Flitter to be leader of the district council. Steve was first elected in 1985, and I think most of us would recognise in Steve a very effective and a very committed member of this council. In 2017 to 18, he was the civic head of this council, and then in 1987 he became a member of Matlock Town Council, and he has subsequently been having said that, Steve is involved in endless groups in his community, and particularly at the moment he serves as secretary of the Matlock branch of the Royal British Legion, and I think much of the survival of that branch has been down to his encouragement and work. So, members, I would like to just formally now propose that Councillor Steve Flitter be the elected leader of this council.
Thank you, Councillor Burton. Does that find a seconder, please? Councillor Dobbs?
I'd like to second the proposal by Councillor Burton, and that Councillor Fitter is the leader for this year. Thank you.
Right, so that's been proposed and seconded. Are there any other nominees from anybody in the room, please? No? So now we'll move on to the vote. This is for the leader of the Derbyshire Dales District Council for the 2023-24 municipal year. All those in favour of Councillor Flitter? All those against? And any abstentions, please? Councillor Flitter abstained. Councillor Flitter, you are now the leader of the Derbyshire Dales District Council. Thank you. Now we move on to find a deputy leader of the Derbyshire Dales District Council for this year. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. We took advice earlier, and it appears that we are able to have joint leaders, joint deputy leaders of the council, and in view of the alliance between the Greens, Labour, and Liberal Democrats, we believe that it is in the interests of the alliance and the council as a whole that the there are joint deputy leaders with the leaders of the two groups, Councillor Dobbs and Councillor Buttle. So I'm proposing that. Sorry, Councillor Slack. Sorry, Councillor Slack and Councillor Buttle. I was looking at the wrong person. As the leaders of the Labour and Green groups in the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Does that find a seconder, please?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor
I will second that motion. I think it is only right that through a progressive alliance we show favour to all three parties, and we have had it cleared on legal advice. And I think this is the way to go. I'd like to just comment before the vote is taken that it is a progressive alliance, a coming together of like-minded people with the same goals within their manifesto, some common goals. It is not a coalition, as I've pointed out to the radio today, but this appointment shows that we are committed to having a progressive alliance within Derbyshire Dales.
Thank you. Councillor Hobson, you have a question?
Thank you, Chair. You have your progressive alliance, and that's very interesting to hear about. I just want to make sure that there is no, with the sharing of the deputy or whatever, that there will be no other financial implications for the council. Just checking that. Thank you.
I'll ask Mr. McLaughlin to comment on that, if I may. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the proposal before you, I would be advising that the council splits the allocated allowance between the two nominated individuals, and that the independent remuneration panel be asked to look at the revised positions within the council after this annual meeting. And you'll be aware that there are other items on the agenda which will need to be looked at by the IRP. So if council votes tonight in accordance with what's set out on the schedules that's been placed around the chamber, I can confirm that the total bill, if I'm going to put it in those terms, is £8,000 less than what we budgeted for in terms of members' allowances. So there's no adverse financial impact at this stage, but that will be subject to the IRP's recommendations, and then whatever decision council makes in relation to those recommendations in due course.
That's okay, Councillor Hobson? Thank you. Right, so it's been moved and seconded for a joint deputy leaders. Can I have all those in favour, please? All those against? And then any abstentions? That motion is carried then, and Councillor Slack and Councillor Buttle will be the deputy leaders. Thank you. We now move on to item 6, which is the leaders' announcements. This is from Councillor Flitter, who's now the leader of the council. Councillor Flitter, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to stand in respect to the council. In the prelim before the words I'm going to say, I'd just like to say thank you for your support, and I wish to welcome all new members to this council, and also all those that have been re-elected, because it is a time of working together to make things happen. Just to correct Civic Chairman on one point, I'm not secretary of the Matlock branch. Forgive me, but it's the Matlock and Darley Dale branch. That's very important, especially for those people that are in the room tonight. Those who know me know that I'm community, community, community. I can be political, but my role here is to do the best I can for the people of Derbyshire Dales and the ward that elected me. One problem I do have, and that is I don't tend to get on with single-minded people or people with tunnel vision. I like to know that everybody here tonight has got an open mind, and you can't change things overnight, but we're going to hopefully change one or two things, but with everybody's help. Now I know I've got one or two sheets of paper here, but it's large print. It's my eyesight's going a little bit, so it's not going to take that long. I did ask James how long I can speak. He says you do what you like. So I'm not going to keep you very long, I promise you that. But 4 years ago, I sat here and listened to a leader's speech that angered so many people and so many members of this council, as it began with a promise to see the local plan through to its conclusion, showing little regard to our residents, and many points began with I. Well, there's no I in team, as you well know, and that's what we must become if we are to succeed and meet the challenges ahead. We will have a new approach to the local plan, with the emphasis of protecting the environment, creating sustainable communities through efficient, energy-efficient housing that meets the local need and need built in the right locations. That is very, very important. Making sure that proper infrastructure supports new and existing development. This is why we propose that the local plan working party become a subgroup with a chair to ensure that recommendations are member-led, and in planning itself we shall insist on tougher enforcement to meet stated conditions and all changes to approved plans. We will re-examine the housing policy with the aim of enabling everyone throughout the district to be able to live and prosper in their own community, with a housing stock that is fit for purpose to meet the challenges of climate change, prioritising affordability, social housing, and ensuring all homes are insulated to the highest standard, carbon neutral and cost effective to run. We will reinvigorate climate change and biodiversity strategies, working with business, farmers and the community, reduce carbon emissions and enhance the biodiversity in our varied landscape. We aim to tackle the pollution by promoting biodiversity, zero carbon technology, supporting greenways, rewilding, community orchards, allotments, and reducing the use of pesticides and herbicides. We will ensure an open, inclusive and transparent way of working, supported by an energised council management and workforce, listening and working together to create a fairer and more caring district by supporting residents, community groups and businesses, making sure that this council deliver the services they need and rely on. Our aim is to open discussion on a regular basis with CLT and develop further the Leaders Advisory Group, provide more member briefings on important and relevant issues. Looking at some more detailed items now, and I have to say public toilets. After many complaints over the last administration's closure of toilet provision, in our tourist hotspots, we will examine the closed sites, re-evaluate possibilities, seeking a way forward to providing the services that our visitors expect. We will realise that some buildings may no longer be suitable but we have to consider the possibility of temporary provision in certain times of the year. Inward investment and partnerships. Economic development is important for the Dales as it creates the opportunity to provide jobs and financial stability for our residents and also builds confidence in existing businesses in retail, manufacturing, service industries, and a lifeline for small businesses. So inward investment and not just grants that are relying on match funding, but we have to need a partnership approach with other authorities and agencies to successfully attract those opportunities. We will support our officers to build on recent successes, move forward and reflect on our growing workforce and their needs. Tricky one, this one. Traveller sites. We want to take the politics out of this very highly sensitive issue. For decades, this council has struggled to find a solution, not forgetting the last attempt by creating a working group led by Councillor Hobson, where her goodwill tried to steer the group impartially. But I'm afraid that politics did eventually raise its head. So we propose to have one member from each group working with an officer to re-evaluate opportunities with a wider scope, looking for a permanent site as well as temporary sites, and take account of the provision in the north, central and southern areas of a district. Car parking. We understand that our car parks are vital income, but we have to look at how we can increase and make that better use of them. It was the Liberal Democrats in the late 90s that introduced the residence parking scheme and still operates successfully today. But many of our residential areas are still suffering as inconsiderate and sometimes dangerous parking takes place on a regular basis. So we have to widen the scope at the present view, looking why some are free, alternative land use, underused areas and opportunities for expansion so that we can meet the visitor prepayment scheme as well. Two major factors. Leisure centres, which is going to be a big problem. Those who have been re-elected will know the difficulties that lie ahead and what we faced in the past. Rising costs, extra council financial support placed a great strain on the ability and viability of Freedom Leisure and put a massive strain on our own resources. We are committed to ensure that residents continue to enjoy these facilities, and we will work hard alongside Freedom in securing a long-term strategy that support management and users. The other one, of course, is waste collection. Perhaps the one service that most residents value most. But it's a very expensive one, and that has been very problematic and is a major concern for the council. The operatives you see on the street are brilliant. They're very good indeed. But changes in management and communication have led to the frustration, not only from officers, but members alike. We continue to honour our contract responsibilities, but we must seek alternative rate arrangements to protect this council and provide a vital service that meets the resident expectations if that contract ever fails. Our council, our officers and staff of this council are our guide to staying both legal and financial responsibility, whilst putting our priorities into action. If we move forward in a positive and progressive manner, we have to review the structure of the council and the resources available. We will look at the capability to deliver the services, match the resources where we can, and look for other opportunities. We respect all staff and we will ensure equality, health and safety as well as all the associated policies that we've got to protect them, and develop further to ensure that they work in a safe, welcoming and rewarding authority. Outside the realm of this district council, we unfortunately have to lobby against certain decisions from other councils that lie outside our control, but lobby we will. On national issues affecting our residents, on local issues to support, for instance, our GPs, education, highways, congestion, but the current one that we all must fight against is the closure of our tourist centres in the Peak Park. Just to end very quickly now, Chair, all our residents are human beings, regardless of age, gender, ability or beliefs. What may seem small to this council could be very major concern to them personally. We councillors are no different and should act and treat others with respect as we expect to be treated by others. 3 words I want you to remember in closing: respect, honesty and dignity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Flitter. We'll move on to item 7, which is apologies for absence. Have we received any, Tommy?
Yes, Chair, thank you. We've got apologies from Councillor Boynton, Councillor Ripton and Councillor Edward Walker.
Thank you very much. Move on to item 8 of the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes for the previous meeting, which seems a long time ago, which was the 16th of March 2023. Would anybody like to move those as being an accurate record? Councillor O'Brien? Anybody wish to second that? Councillor Archer? So it's been moved and it's been seconded. All those in favour of accepting the minutes? Any people against? And do we have any abstentions? No? The minutes are carried. Thank you very much. The next one is item 9, and that's interests. Anybody wish to declare any interests at the meeting? None so declared. Moving on. Item 10, which is to look at the municipal election results, which we're all involved in. I'm going to turn to Mr. McLaughlin now, who's going to enlighten us as to what happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The obvious statement is that what happened is you're all here. I'm not going to go through this report in detail. You are required to receive a report from the returning officer on the election results, and what is set out before you details the results of the wards that were contested, all 21 wards to elect 34 members. The report is for information that you do have to receive it as the council, so I'll leave it at that, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose that we receive this report, and in so doing, I'd like to congratulate and thank Mr. McLaughlin and his team for the excellent way in which the election was handled, right from the very, very beginning to the election night, and then following that the count after the election. Noting that at the parish council level there were major changes, because the proposals that we as a council asked for weren't put through by the national authority, and therefore we had to revert back to the boundaries that the Boundary Commission had determined for us, rather than the ones that we wanted. But nevertheless, it all went very well, and I'd like to thank James and his team for making sure that happened.
Does that find a seconder? Councillor Bond? Anybody want to speak? Councillor Burford, do you want to say something?
Yes, please. Can I also thank Paul Wilson and all the electoral team for all the work they did before the election, during the election, at the count, etc. I'm finding this a bit embarrassing, but in the interest of accuracy, on page 25, I do have to point out that the number of votes for Martin and myself are the wrong way round. Purely in the interests of accuracy, to keep him in his place.
I always thought you were a numbers person, Councillor Burford. Councillor G, would you like to say something? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, as a new councillor on Derbyshire Dales, I'd like to echo the thanks to the officers, because I think the way that they've handled the election is fabulous, and I think the way that they've organised the events to welcome in new councillors is really good. So I'd give you 10 out of 10 for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody else wishing to speak? Councillor Slack.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, our officers have done splendidly again, like they always do. We're very, very fortunate to have such good officers, and the count went exactly correct and everything. There was no dispute at all. So, a fantastic job by the officers. Thank you very much.
Councillor Buttle, sorry.
Thanks. I just thought I'd add a bit of information. I was told that there were 17 people turned away for not having photo ID, which I don't know what that tells us, but it's less than I expected. So that's it was probably well organised, and I'd like to thank the officers for managing to keep it down to that number. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'd just like to add my thanks to the gentleman sat in the back right-hand corner of the room, Jason Spencer, who managed a most excellent campaign of elections, and his excellent team in the electoral services. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jason. We'll move to the vote now. So all those in favour of accepting Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Move on to item 11, which is the membership of political groups, political balance and entitlement to seats and committees. This is Mr. McLaughlin again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is one of my favourite reports, as returning members will know. Trying to sort out the political balance calculations after an election is something that keeps me awake at night, and probably keeps a lot of you awake at night. So this report is submitted to confirm the number of political groups that are in operation on the council following the election, and there are 4 groups now presently active on the council. There is the Conservative group, the Green Party group, the Labour and Councillor O'Brien group, and the Liberal Democrat group. As I mentioned earlier on, Chair, the allowances scheme that the council approved in January of this year doesn't fit the likely political structures that you'll be agreeing shortly. So there is a recommendation within the report, not only that the allowances be paid in accordance with the current scheme, but also that the IRP be asked to look at and talk to the members who will be taking on these new or additional roles or different roles, so that you can get a report back from the IRP in due course. You'll see within the report there's reference to the establishment of new subcommittees, and whilst council won't be appointing directly to the subcommittees, that will be a matter for the parent committee. It is a matter for council to establish those subcommittees. The report sets out the overall seat entitlement of all groups, and whilst there's been reference to the alliance that's controlling the council, the calculation has been undertaken on the basis of there being 4 political groups in operation. I'm not going to go through the calculations in detail, but members can ask questions on that, Chair, if they so wish. Within the report, I'm also seeking council to consider nominations to and appoint members to serve on the 3 joint committees that are in operation that we're a member of as a council, which is the Joint ICT Committee, the Vision Derbyshire Joint Committee, and the D2 Joint Committee for Economic Prosperity. And then finally, council has the option to appoint to various working groups that have previously been in operation. I understand there is a political will for those to continue. Again, Those appointments don't have to be made tonight, and what I would recommend, Chair, is that if they're not appointed to, that group leaders be authorised to make nominations separately to me, so that we can act with a bit of pace rather than waiting for the next council meeting at the end of July. And then finally, members know I always like to throw a curveball in. There's an additional recommendation which is on the paper that's been left on your table this evening, which is in relation to the calendar of meetings for the current year. There's been a request for those dates that were set for Wednesdays for both the Community and Environment Committee and Governance and Resources Committee to be moved to Thursdays. So on this bit of paper for agenda item 11, you'll see the previous date and the new date, and I recommend that you adopt and amend the calendar of meetings to reflect those dates. Just to confirm, the committee team will be sending out Outlook calendar invites to members of those committees. Hopefully you won't get a load of emails pinging in your inbox. Hopefully we'll be able to do it automatically this time. And just finally, in terms of calendar of meetings and dates, for the subcommittees and working groups that have been established, those will be circulated at a later point. You need to appoint them first before we can actually confirm the dates of them. And I think that's all I'm probably going to say on this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions, please? Councillor Burford?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to ask for clarification where there's a local plan subcommittee, biodiversity subcommittee, and various working groups proposed, and the members are down. The proposed members are down here for certainly the controlling group parties. But does the parent committee actually elect the chairs of those committees, or are they left until the first meeting of that subcommittee or working group?
Through you, Chair. They are elected by the subcommittee themselves. So the subcommittee would need to meet, but the subcommittee can only be formally established by the parent committee, or the membership of the subcommittee can only be established. So we may wish to revisit that if there's a desire to have some pace in getting the parent committees, subcommittees moving. So it might only be a very quick meeting to enable that to happen, but that will need to take place. Procedure.
Councillor G?
Yeah, I think on this local plan, which is important, I think we've obviously got to provide our members on that, and we will be doing that in the near future. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving to debate, if anybody's got anything they wish to state. No? That's good. So we'll now, does anybody wish to move that we accept these recommendations? Councillor Flitter, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Chapman, thank you. So we'll move to the vote. All those in favour of accepting the 7 recommendations as listed, and plus the 8th. Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions, please? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, we've got item 12, which is the schedule of nominations to committees. This document has been circulated. It's been on your tables. What I intend to do is take this en bloc, unless there are any people that wish to raise any questions. Anybody wish to raise any questions about the agenda item 12 that was on your desk? No? Would anybody like to move that we accept those recommendations? Councillor Slack?
Yes, I'll move that, Chair.
Thank you. And seconder, Councillor Buttle? Thank you. Anybody wish to make any other comment before we go to a vote? That's good. All those in favour of accepting agenda item 12, the community membership? Anyone against? And any abstentions? That's again moved unanimously. Thank you very much. Now move on to agenda item 13. The appointment of chairs and vice chairs. Again, this document was circulated to you earlier this evening. It's been on your desk under agenda item 13. States quite clearly who the chairs and the vice chairs are. Again, I intend to take these en bloc unless there are any specific objections. Does anybody wish to raise any questions? Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Chair. I must have misheard. Appointment of chairs and vice chairs, will that take place at the first meeting or will it be done now?
Mr. McLaughlin?
Through you, Chair. So the appointment of chairs and vice chairs for committees will take place here, but for subcommittees and working groups, that will take place at those meetings.
Any other questions, please? Councillor G?
Is there an agenda for those meetings, those subcommittee meetings?
Because yes, through you, Chair. Because you've just established subcommittees, they're subject to the access for information rules. So there'll be agendas 5 clear working days before.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Right, move to debate. Does anybody wish to make any comment about this? If not, we'll move to the vote. No, we won't, because nobody's moved it. That's very kind. Thank you. Anybody wish to second it? Councillor Hughes?
I'll second.
It has been moved and it has been seconded. So can we now move to the vote? All those in favour, please? That's wonderful. All those against? Any abstentions? That's unanimous. Moved. Thank you. We'll go on to item 14, which is the appointment to outside bodies for the 2023-24 municipal year. This is to review the council's affiliations with outside bodies and consider nominations to act as the council's representatives. Again, this document was circulated to you as agenda item 14 on your desks as you arrived. Mr. McLaughlin is going to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I promise not to take too long, members, but I just want to point out that we've recommended that the council doesn't appoint to the HS2 Chesterfield and Staveley Delivery Board. It previously did have representation, but there's not actually been any input from this authority required to that body, so we've recommended that that isn't appointed to on this occasion. We have recommended that council appoint a member to represent the council on the bus service improvement plan wider stakeholder group. It's previously had officer involvement, but representations have been received from members that it would be appropriate to have member level representation there. So that is recommended to you this evening. The remainder of the report is pretty familiar for returning members. And I'm sure members have all read the paper before coming tonight. The rest of the paper sets out the conferences that you will send members to attend and that are permitted and that I have authority to authorise the financing of. At 2.4 in the report, I've just confirmed the situation in relation to the South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority. We are a non-constituent member of that body through law, and we are required to appoint a representative, but there's not been any actual requirement for a representative from this council to attend a meeting of that body for a number of years. So whilst you do have to make an appointment to it, it's not something that will require any attendance. Finally, Chair, in terms of the nominations that have been put forward, I would recommend that in relation to the Peak District National Park Authority, there is separate votes on the 3 nominations, so they will have to be proposed and seconded separately, and whichever of the 2 members out of the 3 has the most number of votes, so the top 2, if you will, they will be the District Council's representatives on the Peak District National Park Authority. I think that summarises everything within the report, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions, please?
Chair,
Councillor Burton?
Mr. McLaughlin just clarified on page 41, number 7, financial and resource implications. Can you just clarify, because there was a phase, certainly when I was last on the council, where there wasn't this cover. And I think it's very, very important this cover is here. It's extremely beneficial in terms of what possibly could happen to an individual member. And I fully support this amount of money being there in case a particular member encounters a situation where perhaps that council would have had to have found their own legal costs.
Thank you. Mr. McLaughlin?
I think the next section of the report probably explains very well why that reserve indemnity cover is there. You will have different roles on the different types of outside bodies that we appoint to. and those roles are set out in the appendix to the report. Some organisations you'll be there representing the council and this council's interests. In others, you will actually have what's called a fiduciary duty to that body. So it's important that you're very clear about which hat you're wearing when you're attending these outside bodies. So yes, we do provide that indemnity cover. However, the burden is on you when you're on the outside body to be clear around which role that you hold. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Buttle?
Thank you. Just could I clarify with James that I'm okay to nominate two people, but we're voting separately?
So my advice would be that each of the nominees is proposed and seconded separately, and we vote separately, so we have a clear understanding of what you're voting for. So if that's okay, if you don't mind proposing twice and seconding twice, then I think that's the best way to get a clear result.
Councillor G?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a point with regard to this process we're taking with the Peak National Park Authority. I'd like to say that I do respect the council system and I respect the three nominees on this. But as a member for Bakewell and also along with Mark, I'd like to make sure that we're fully consulted on the business with the national park because, you know, it's the only town in the national park. So that's really important to me.
I think that's understood, and I'm sure that full consultation will be undertaken. Can I just say one thing? When you're talking, can you just get the microphone a bit nearer to you? Yeah, all right, thank you. No, it's fine. Any more questions, please? Moving to debate then, thank you. Anybody wish to say anything? No? Oh, Councillor Buttle.
I'm okay to nominate now.
Thank you.
Excellent, I'll do that.
What we're going to do, Councillor Buttle, is we're going to we're going to vote on the whole of the list with the exception of the Peak District National Park Authority. So, would anybody like to move the whole of the list without the Peak District National Authority? Councillor Buttle, Councillor Whitehead, you seconding. So can we vote on that we're accepting agenda item 14 with the exception of the Peak District National Park, please? All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? That's fine. So that part of it is done, but now we're going to vote on the Peak District National Park. Would anybody like to nominate any of the people? Councillor Buttle?
Thank you. I think you might be expecting this. I'd like to nominate Councillor Butler for one of the roles at the Peak District National Park Authority. He's worked for them for a very long time. While I'm doing that, could I thank David Chapman just while we're going along to all his fantastic work on Meals for the Future. But as we're changing to a progressive alliance, and there are now a majority of Labour and Green people over the Conservative members for the National Park, I feel that maybe we'd be quite well placed to have a Green there. And I'm absolutely clear that the National Park's reasonably stuck in aspic. It's been hanging about without much change since 1951, and it needs waking up. And I'd really like to put Matt Buckler forward for that job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buttle. Does that find a seconder, please? Councillor Nash, you've got your finger up there. That's seconded. Are there any other nominations? Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to nominate David Chapman as one of the Peak Park representatives. He's served for 12 years on the authority, 5 as Deputy Chair. He's been a member of all the committees, Chair of the Land Managers Group and the South West Peak Landscapes. He's chaired Moors for the Future for 8 years, and he's involved in the current negotiations with water companies and Natural England. As Councillor Buttle has alluded to, David is passionate and knowledgeable about the National Park. I would ask that members think beyond party politics and in the spirit of working together, vote for David Chapman. Thank you.
Councillor Flitter, you were first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was a hard decision, this one. And I must admit that David's name did not come off the list lightly. And we do respect all the work, and all the work he's done on the climate change within this area with his expertise, along with the Peak Park. It wasn't an easy decision, but I think Councillor Buttle has explained it. We have got a majority of councillors up in the Peak Park at the moment, and I think they need to be represented. So I shall be voting for the two recommendations by Councillor Buttle.
Thank you, Councillor. I've got Councillor Morley. Councillor Morley.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Chair. Well, I'm going to agree with Councillor Hobson, because David Chapman's put in an enormous amount of work and he's extremely knowledgeable and he's there hands-on. And I'm very disappointed to hear politics already creeping in at this early stage. I'm sorry if that upsets people at this particular meeting, but I think David Chapman's the man for the job. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to take this opportunity to nominate Councillor Andy Nash to represent the District Council on the National Park Authority. Councillor Nash is representative for the Bradwell ward. He lives in Bradwell. He was elected by an overwhelming majority of the residents in that ward. Councillor Nash understands fully the strategic imperatives which guide the National Park Authority. But I think most important to this council and to the residents of the National Park, he understands the needs of the communities and the residents which reside within the park. And I don't think we should forget that around 50% of our residents live in those communities. And I could think of no one better place to represent the interests of this council and those residents than Councillor Nash. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hughes?
I'll wait until somebody seconds it.
Okay. So, Councillor Martin Burford.
Yes, I'd like to second that nomination and point out that throughout my years working for the National Park Authority, the Hope Valley area was a crucial part of the National Park area, and a lot of important decisions were made in the, pertaining to the Hope Valley area. And also in response to Councillor Morley, the National Park Authority throughout my experience was always political. Every year, in fact, there were different members nominated by different councils within the constituent authorities that they represented. So it's not new by any means. So I'd like to second the proposal for Councillor Andy Nash.
Councillor Hughes, you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to support Andy Nash and Matthew Buckler in terms of their positions on this body. Matt has been the Progressive Alliance is putting forward a biodiversity proposals, biodiversity policy will follow, and also is highlighting the need to support communities in Derbyshire Dales. And Matt Buckler has been is right at the centre of understanding the biodiversity issues associated with Derbyshire Dales and particularly the Peak District. And we also need community champions, somebody who will look after the communities within the Peak District, and Andy Nash will fulfil that role as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we go to the vote, any more comment? Councillor Slack. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to support Andy Nash and Matthew. I think Matthew's done outstanding work for the Derbyshire Wildlife Trust and outstanding work for the Peak Park over the years. So he's the right man for the job. And also Andy Nash is a local man. He lives in Bradwell, as Pete O'Brien's already said, and he's a very committed person for his community in Bradwell, and he got a very good vote and support from Bradwell people. So he's the right man for the job too. So I thank David Chapman for all what he's done in the past in that area, but we have to move on, and we Progressive Alliance sees a progression in this area. So I support them too, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Apologies, I got you on my list but didn't say. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to point out to some of our colleagues that the Peak Park, in my experience, in the time I've been going for the last couple of years, is not political at all. I sit on committees with You're probably talking about a different day. Currently, it isn't political. We make judgments on the facts that are presented to us. You might not like that. You're shaking your head, but that's how it is. Well, that's fair enough, but it's not political, and I quite enjoy it for that reason. I've made friends from different areas that are Labour, Conservative, Liberals, and whatever, and it works very well. I would have seconded David, but obviously that's been done. I think, I second the fact that Dave's been congratulated for all his efforts and whatever. It would be sad to see you not be there. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment, please? What we're going to do is we're going to move to the vote, and we're going to do it in alphabetical order. So the first one will be Councillor Buckler. So all those that would prefer Councillor Buckler to be one of the two, could you now vote? Thank you. Any against? And any abstentions? Councillor Bond. Thank you. Moving on to Councillor Chapman. All those in favour of Councillor Chapman? Any against? Any abstentions? And finally, Councillor Nash. All those in favour for Councillor Nash? Any against? Any abstentions, please? Right. If you want the figures, I can get them for you. Have you got any numbers? No, but it was clear that the two members going forward will be Councillor Nash and Councillor Buckler. Thank you very much. We'll now go on to item 15, which is public participation. There's one speaker here this evening, Mr. John Ewart, a local resident, who wished to make a comment on the proposed traveller site working group. Mr. Ewart, would you like to adopt the usual position, please?
Thank you.
Once you set, Mr. Ewart, it's the normal format. You've got 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members. And congratulations on everything that I've witnessed today, and I wish you well. My name's John Ewart. I'm a retired chartered town planner, and I represent, for this evening's purposes, I represent broadly the owners of the Woodyard and the travelling community that are involved in that. There isn't any formal coordination of travellers other than their spokesperson, Siobhan Spencer. I was very pleased to hear what your new leader said just now about travellers. I think the bottom line, without going into any detail, and I have circulated my thoughts previously, I think the main thing for me to say now is that it is urgent. There are people in considerable financial and social difficulties for as long as things are not resolved. I'm pleased to hear that there will be a Traveller working group, and I shall be interested to hear who that would be and who its chair might be as soon as possible. I'm willing to do anything that I can from my experience. 7 years experience of working for the owners of the Woodyard and 50 years experience as a planning officer in all contexts. I hope you can delegate power right now as much as you can to the Travellers group to get things done. That's it. Thank you. That's all, Jen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ewart. Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of business for this evening. So I'm now going to adjourn the meeting and wish everybody a good evening. Thank you. Urgent announcement. Can people please hang about for a photograph, group photograph? Thank you. Next door.